let's get to August 22nd.
Okay.
The massacre, or Black Friday, as you call it, in one word. Now, you're a man of many words, okay? So I'm going to challenge you. In one word, how do you describe that?
Oh my gosh! In one word. Oh boy. Okay. Well, let me just say this. On August the 22nd, the one word would have been stunned. That would have been the word. August the 22nd, the one word would have been stunned. One word would have been stunned on a variety of levels. Not just about me. I guess I was the longest tenured member of that group. Although Paul Kopelke, who was the station GM at the time, had been involved with the station over a period of time probably longer than 12 years, but not 12 years in a row. But I guess the first, that day, stunned would have been the word. I certainly wasn't in any way, shape, or form expecting it. I don't think any of the other four were. We were such a, we had such a unique group of people there who were really, really dedicated to the station, dedicated to the guy that owns the station. So we were all stunned by the way it all happened. So, the 22nd of August, I was stunned.
Okay.
The 29th of August, I was angry.
That was my next question. So the next day, one word, and then I'm sure the words changed and got a little more colorful.
Well,
time went on.
Yeah, I would say a week later, I was angry. Probably. That's fair. Now, 2 months later, I am motivated and galvanized by it. And this is going to sound strange to say. Relieved might not be the right word, but this really has turned out to be an enormous blessing in disguise. But it wasn't intended to be that way, I'm sure. So I would say that, but I definitely was at more, a week or so later, I was very angry. And again, it wasn't really just about me. It was more about sort of sitting down and realizing how much work and sweat equity and giving, if that's the right word, that the five of us had done, particularly over the last 6 months or so, particularly throughout most of 2014, to be treated like that, as sort of the check please, to be treated like that. It's a little bit like being a server at a steak restaurant and doing everything that you could have done to make the customer's meal great, albeit you didn't actually cook the steak, but you've done everything you could do, and at the end of the night they leave you 50 cents
right
on a $250 bill, and you're like, wasn't it supposed to be better than this? So anyway, I went from stunned to angry to.
Why didn't you just roll right back into radio? I'm sure somebody would have picked you up, but and we'll get to this blog in a minute. This Drew's Morning Dish project of yours, but why didn't you go to satellite or down the street to the other station, or did you?
No.
Did you do that? And they said no, we're not interested?
No, not at all. That's a good question. I think first of all, and again, I'm certainly not trying to eliminate myself from consideration to anyone who would potentially want me to go do radio for them, but it would really have to be the perfect scenario for me. And by that, I mean the right time of the day or night. I have a lot of other things going on. Obviously, I have a family, I have a wife, I have 2 children. I have a commitment that I really, really enjoy at Calvert Hall as their head golf coach. And it would need the scenario would need to be perfect for me. And I'm not saying that to make it out to sound like everything's got to tailor to Drew. it just would have to be it's sort of like what happened to me at the end of my soccer career when I went up to Buffalo. It was a nice opportunity. The money was really good. They would have paid for me to move all my stuff up there, et cetera, but it just wasn't right. Something in radio would have to be right for me. And as I sat down in the days after the whole firing thing, I had thought about this concept for a while, this website concept. I'm a huge reader of Grantland. I'm a daily reader at Grantland. I love what Bill Simmons has done. I'm a Bill Simmons fan, and I like the concept of long-form writing that he does, and I like the concept of not necessarily writing every single day about LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Peyton Manning, Derek Jeter. I like learning about new people and different things about sports. So anyway, I had this sort of concept in the back of my mind for a while about a Grantland sort of formula that would be more tailored to Baltimore specifically. And, there's, as they say, no time like the present to try to do this thing that, I had to sell it to my family. I had to sell it to my wife, my kids.
Right.
My kids are happy that I'm.
They need to go out and get people to sponsor.
Right.
To get some money behind it.
Right. Right. Well, yeah. I mean, the first thing I needed to do was make sure. Well, first thing I needed to do was create and develop an amicable, whatever you want to call it, settlement with the radio station. That was my first order of business, was to make sure that I was treated fairly, and that took a few weeks, but I needed to create an amicable settlement with them so that I knew, I had a defining end point and starting point. So once that settlement was done, I was able to sort of sit down and say, okay, now what do I want to do with this website? How do I make it work? And is this really, really what I want to do? And then the answer became, because I can't play on the PGA Tour, the answer became, yeah, this is what I really want to do. That this concept of connecting me with readers and supporters and listeners to a corporate community that has sort of the same vision for Baltimore, that's really what I wanted to do. So that's how it all started. Doesn't mean that somewhere down the road I wouldn't want to maybe do radio again. I don't really have a Radio Jones, to borrow that famous term of the 70s and 80s. I don't have a Radio Jones. I really don't. If I don't ever go back on the radio again, it wouldn't bother me at all. I have a Sports Jones, though, for sure, that I want to be involved in sports. I love sports. I think sports is a great connector for the community, as we saw with the Orioles a few weeks back, how vibrant downtown was, how electric it was, how much my son enjoyed, waking up every morning and saying, "Daddy, who won last night?" I took him to that first game against the Tigers, and we had a great day. I don't even have to get into why sports is so important in Baltimore, because everybody knows why it's so important. But this website is hopefully the connector that gets this large group of people to help one another, to borrow a line from Wedding Crashers, people helping people. That's really what it is.
Right,
it's a three-pronged handshake. Drew, the readers, and the sponsors. And, no one's more important than the other. Everybody pulls their weight.
Well, let me ask you this: what is now the Ravens and the Orioles and the Capitals? Okay, but what is it about the local college sports that you care so much about? Whereas you look at some of the other media outlets around town, and at the end of the sportscast, they're scrolling up the screen at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and you try and pick them up. Why? What is your attraction to the local college sports scene? I've always, first of all, I didn't go to any of them. So I don't really have, I'm not an alum of Towson or Loyola or UMBC or Hopkins or any of those places. I don't know. I just always felt like, well, first of all, I always felt like they never really get their due. Right.
I always felt that. I always felt, and that might have come, honestly, that could have been born out of the fact that in a large portion of the time I was involved with the Blast, I always felt like we didn't get our due.
That underdog feeling, we're
a little bit. We were drawing. One time. I mean, this is an amazing statistic. We sold out that building 56 games in a row in the 80s. 11,543 people. We sold out the building 56 games in a row, and I'm talking about a Tuesday night in January when the Golden Bay earthquakes would come to town. Sold out. Thursday night when the Denver Avalanche came to town, sold out. 56 games in a row, that building, there were no tickets available. This is a very true story because I remember it like it was yesterday. I got 4 tickets to every game, and I'm talking about 81 to 89 in that range. I got 4 tickets to every game. That's all I got. There was no other, hey, Drew, can you, I'm a good friend of yours, can you get me 4 more? No. I got 4 tickets.
Right, so these were fans that wanted to go to the game. It wasn't the Blast handing out tickets.
No. Right. I mean, it was such a sellout that I got 4 tickets to every game as an employee, and that was it. Right. But that said, I always felt like we didn't. I always felt like we just didn't get our due. I felt like we were. There was obviously you had the baseball team, and until '84 you had the football team. I just didn't feel like we got our due. So I don't know. Maybe this is all germane to the fact that I've always been a supporter of these local colleges because I know those people there. I've known Steve Levy at UMBC for a long time. Pete Schleier's not at Towson anymore, but I knew those guys, and I know them. I know Pete Caringi. I tried to hire Pete, in fact. I know Phil Stern. I know Pat Scarry. Tony Seaman is a very, very good friend of mine who was the lacrosse coach at Towson. I know all these people. And I just feel like somebody has to let the community know how special they are as men or women. And they represent Baltimore. When UMBC played in that NCAA tournament in 2008, they were there as Baltimore. Towson, as heartbreaking as it was last year because they came so close before they lost to William & Mary, Towson would have been representing Baltimore in the NCAA tournament. Morgan State, Todd Bozeman, I used to, and I still do, but I mean, when Todd and Morgan State were having their run there 3 or 4 years ago, I would go over there, Glenn Clark and I would go over there and sit there and watch games. I was there the night Reggie Holmes broke the record. Still one of my most memorable sporting nights ever was over at Hill Fieldhouse the night Reggie Holmes broke the Morgan State scoring record. I don't know. I just feel like they deserve more attention than they get. So I give it to them.
So you mentioned a couple coaches there, and you said before one of the things that you've always said is that you love coaches.
My favorite people in sports are coaches.
So now at Calvert Hall Golf, you are a coach.
Yeah, right. Now they really are my favorite people.
Right. So now I have to ask you this: is your affection for coaching or coaches, did that lead you to take that job? And after you've taken that job, then you've had that job for what, a year, a little over a year?
First year. I was at John Carroll for 2 years as their golf coach, and then I took the Calvert Hall job in October of 2012. Our first season was the 13 season. We're a spring sport. So I'm entering my 3rd season as their head golf coach.
Okay, and these last 2.5, 3 years, that's been your first experience with coaching.
Well, John Carroll was.
Okay.
So technically John Carroll was, but yes.
So does this change how you see coaches? Does it make you appreciate them more or less?
No. It makes me appreciate them more. Oh, no doubt. And look, I'm just a measly high school golf coach. I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to promote myself to the equal of John Harbaugh or Buck Showalter or Barry Trotz or anybody like that, or even Pete Caringi or Pat Scarry. But you take great pride in it. There's no, and I know Brian Kelly over there is the lacrosse coach, and Don Davis, and I know all the coaches over there at Calvert Hall and all the schools take, Lou Eckerl, who's the baseball coach and the AD. Everybody takes tremendous pride in their programs. I didn't go to Calvert Hall. I kind of feel like I did because I know so many people that went there. The pressure's on me to succeed because I have so many dear friends who went to school there. Rod Trump, Chris Beloga, Serge Hogue, Tim Osgood, guys that are really, really very, very dear friends of mine that went to school there, and I feel like I have an allegiance to them, and they want the golf program to do well, and I'm in charge of it. But it definitely gives me a different appreciation of it. There's no doubt and I kind of knew this when I was running the team, the soccer team, but there's a little piece of you that dies as a coach when you lose, because the first thing you do, absolute first thing you do, is you say, what could I have done? What happened there? And I remember last year we lost to Mount St. Joe in the playoffs at Country Club of Maryland. It was the first time in 2 years that we had lost a home match at Country Club of Maryland and eliminated us from the playoffs. And I remember sitting in the parking lot. Everybody had left, and I was still sitting in my car in the parking lot, writing some notes down. And I just remember thinking, what the hell just happened? How did we lose? And we lost badly. Did I not play the right guys? Was the order not right? The order is almost not debatable because it's sort of preset. But you just wonder, did we practice? Did we not practice enough leading up to this? Did I not warn them enough that Mount St. Joe was really good? There's that dichotomy of, I don't want them to be afraid of Mount St. Joe, but I also don't want them to take Mount St. Joe too lightly. How do I balance that? So, coaching has made me really appreciate what, and I know John, obviously, John Harbaugh. I know him. I know how hard he works. It's why anytime I hear, it's funny, right? Anytime you hear that, Harbaugh didn't have the team ready. Trust me, if anything, they're always overly ready.
Right.
They have so much information at their disposal. But coaching has given me a different outlook on it, just from the standpoint of you have a record. The first year at Calvert Hall, we won the championship. Very first year. Hadn't been done since 1997. We won the championship. And, it makes you want to do it again the next year. So when you don't win it the next year, you're very, very, we were very disappointed last year. But you as the coach, the first thing you do is you look at it and you say, how did I foul that up? What did I do wrong? And, sometimes there is criticism that you need to take, and then sometimes it's just, hey, the other team played well that day. Mount St. Joe played great that day against us. We would have had to have played our A-plus game to beat them. So really the credit goes to them. But still, as the coach, you always say, I wonder what I did wrong.
Well, let me ask you this, too, about the coaching. Any aspirations about going further, moving up to the next level, college?
Yeah, would I be interested in college golf? Sure, but it would have to be the right scenario. I would love to do the Calvert Hall thing forever, because I think you can really impact these young men at a pretty formidable time in their life for golf. These kids are very accomplished for their age, and yet they have so much growth, particularly in the mental part of the game. They have so much growth right in the palm of their hand, and it's up to you. It's up to. I don't mess with their golf swings all that much. A lot of my kids have instructors and teachers they go see. What I try to get them to do is be better prepared, more mentally connected while they're playing, and to kind of understand the goals that they need to set for themselves, both for the season, for the match, for this hole. How do you my favorite saying is, you can make 4 from there. A kid hits a bad tee shot, I always say, yeah, you can make a par from there. You'll figure out a way to make a par. Ball plugs in the bunker. Yeah, you can make a par from there. So, my job more is to teach them about the game and not teach them about their swing. So, it's a roundabout way of saying, would I be interested in college golf? Sure, but I'd be very, very happy to stay at Calvert Hall for forever, however long that is.
Okay, well, let me ask you this about Drew's Morning Dish. It's a blog. We get that. It seems like from what you said that it's getting a lot of use, so it seems to be quite successful. That's dovetailed into this website now. And where do you see Drew's Morning Dish, or as you affectionately call it, hashtag DMD? Where do you see that in 5 years? Will that be around? Is that a step?
It better be around.
Is that a long-term project?
Yeah, sure. It better be around in 5 years. the concept of it is just to have a place where people who love Baltimore sports can go every day for unfiltered commentary about the local teams, some national stories. Sometimes we get so caught up in what's going on locally that we forget that there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on in sports that deserves 500 words or 300 words dedicated to it, or a podcast dedicated to it. I think the Peyton Manning story from last week, where he got aggravated with the scoreboard operator in Denver, I thought that was a really, really interesting story. People around the country were beating him up about Peyton's a whiner and a crybaby, and I'm like, you guys have no idea what's going on. That one game, one series, one bad throw, one penalty at the wrong time could cost you a game, cost you a playoff spot, cost you home field advantage, and that's why Peyton Manning's a Hall of Famer. Peyton Manning's a Hall of Famer because he recognized that something as far removed from him as the scoreboard operator flashing up Denver players on the sideline dancing at the end of the game, which caused the crowd to roar and created bedlam on the field, meant he had to waste a timeout. Well, he didn't even waste a timeout. They called a penalty on him. That kind of story I thought was really, really interesting, and I wrote about it. And that's the kind of stuff. It doesn't just have to be about Ravens and Orioles and Terps and Caps and Towson and UMBC. It can be about anything. The website is much more, though, about sort of a multi-dimensional. We'll have the podcast. I'm going to do a thing every month called In the Community, which is a video blog where we're going to go out and meet people in the community, almost like a documentary, because I think Baltimore has so many interesting stories, and those may not necessarily be connected directly to sports, but they'll have some sports theme to it. The centerpiece of all of this will be the blog every day. That'll go up, and but there'll be a podcast. I may do it every week. I may do it 3 times a week once I get into it. I don't know. I may do it every morning. Who knows? In 2015, I may wake up one day and say, you know what? Every morning at 6:10, I'm going to get up and record 12 minutes of podcasting, and it'll be up every day at 7 o'clock. I don't know. I can do whatever I want because it's my website. And then the real big piece of that is to bring in these corporate partners that are supporters of mine. I mean, every one of them, if I go through the list, and I probably should just because I want everybody to know who they are. You could see it on the website as well, and I don't want to forget anybody, I will. So give me a second, because I think there are 16 of them now. Does that sound right? Royal Farms, CQ, the Green Turtle, Primary Residential Mortgage, Unison Business Solutions, Marsh Insurance and Financial, Viking Remodeling and Repair, Mariner Distribution, thecallsnetwork.com, Chick-fil-A of Nottingham Square, my buddy Steve Pavlovsky, UMBC Athletics, First Choice Automotive, ABC Rental of Rosedale. I feel like I'm getting them all just about. Robbie's First Base, Mountain Branch, my home away from home. I play a lot of golf there. It's a great place. I know I'm missing someone. I said I would. I know I'm missing someone. I'm thinking. But anyway, the Green Turtle. I think I say the Green Turtle. Yeah, I think I said the Green Turtle. So if I'm missing anybody, I apologize, and I'll come back and I'll mention you at some point. But those people are all, those are all friends of mine. Those are people that I knew in the radio business, or I've known in my, I've known Sean Shannon at Unison Business Solutions for better part of a decade. I'm a CQ member. Royal Farms has been a big supporter of mine for a long time. Vic Bisco and Devin Gallagher are very, very good friends of mine from Primary Residential Mortgage. I'm a customer. I'm a client of theirs. They redid my mortgage. It saved me a ton of money. Dave Buchanan at First Choice Automotive is a good man. I've known Greg Marsh for a while. Wish I could sing as good as Greg, or as well as Greg. These are all, Daryl Phillips and I have played a lot of golf together at Mariner Distribution. These are just people that, and the concept of this, of course, is they all have a product to sell. Craig Kramer at ABC Rental, when it starts to snow this December and you need a snowblower, you can rent it from him. These are all people that have a product to sell, and they're all here. They're all in Baltimore. They're all part of this group. And I want the next time you're going to have a golf outing, I want you to use Mountain Branch. And when you need your car fixed, I want you to go see Dave at First Choice. And when you need insurance needs for your daughter who's turned 16 and driving, God forbid, well, knock on wood, hope that doesn't happen to me anytime soon, you go see Greg Marsh. And when you're having a Christmas party and you're bringing some kids around and you need food, go see Steve Podolsky at Chick-fil-A. All of these companies have something to offer. And they want to be in touch with this community of people with Drew's Morning Dish, and I want to make them available there because I know they're good people because I know them all. So it really is, like I said before, joking around about the Wedding Crashers line, it really is people helping people. These are all people predisposed to helping Drew's Morning Dish readers if you just give them a chance to get your business.
All right, Drew. Well, those are all the questions that I have for you.
That's
today.
it? I thought you were going to throw me some fastballs.
No, I think I hit you with a couple good ones.
No, you did.
You took the high road on a couple of them. I gave you the opportunity to get down in the gutter a little bit. And, I can speak for myself as an anonymous listener, your only listener.
Right, yeah, right. What are the odds of that? The Orioles said I had one listener, and
I've seen people that obviously aren't listeners comment online that they admire you for taking the high road in this whole transition, I guess you could call it for you. And everything happens for a reason. That's what they say. They say one door closes, another door opens, right. And it seems like that's occurred for you. So. On behalf of your one listener, we appreciate you answering these questions. And
the real podcasting will begin next week. I mean, this is real, but I have a Ravens executive on with me next week. And let me make sure I have my calendar right here. I have a Ravens executive on with me next week. And the week after, I will be talking to Rob Ambrose, who is a coach, who is going through a little bit of a downtime this year at Towson, but who is an extraordinary interview. Rob is a really, really good interview. I think people will enjoy me sitting down with Rob because I'll tell Rob from the beginning, I'm throwing fastballs and some curveballs. You've got to be ready to hit them, and he will. It'll be a very unfiltered hour with Rob Ambrose. But next week I'll have a Ravens executive on, and we got a lot of interesting stuff planned to talk about. I'm going to throw them some fastballs and curveballs too with the Ravens.
What is there a day? Do you already?
I think this is always going to launch on Tuesdays. I think the podcast is a Tuesday function, and for the meantime, or at this point, it'll be once a week, and then I'll see once I get. I'm currently completely swamped in all caps. Once I'm just swamped and it's lowercase swamped, then maybe we'll do more podcasting. But at this point, it'll be once a week on Tuesdays.
Okay, Drew. Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to come in and ask you a couple questions. I think I covered them.
You did. Very good job. Good job.
I don't think I left any
Just don't get in radio because you never know when you might get canned.
All right, Drew. Thank you.
Yep. We'll see you guys next week on Tuesday here at Drew's Morning Dish. Make sure you check out the website every day. 6 a.m. it launches, and 7 a.m. on the weekends. Of course, the weekends we dedicate mainly to football. Our big game day blog is up on Sundays at 7 a.m. So Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. at drewsmorningdish.com, and then on the weekends at 7 a.m. And we will return next week. We'll be talking Ravens with a member of the Ravens organization. Have a great week.